LaSalle students have officially returned to an in-person learning experience with new health guidelines in place. Hello, I'm Erin Holly.
And I'm Justin Dick. The city of Philadelphia is ending its relationship with a COVID nonprofit group after the CEOs reported giving vaccines to friends. We have all this and more coming up on LTV News, where the action never stops. To LTV News, where we bring you everything from 20th and Olney Avenue, Philadelphia, and the world.
There is a lot to catch up on in the next half hour, as Justin had the chance to sit down with LaSalle's Director of Student Health. So let's hear the buzz around campus.
While we return to some kind of normalcy by being back at campus, things at LaSalle look very different this semester. The COVID pandemic has called for drastic changes to be made in order to ensure the safety of students living on campus. First, the dining hall has received major changes. Instead of being able to eat at the dining hall, food orders must be placed to go on an app called Dining Sidekick. By doing this, LaSalle has limited interactions that would come with being in a large, crowded dining hall. Second, living on campus housing is much different. LaSalle has a no guest policy in place, so students cannot have anyone in their dorm, apartment, or house that does not live there. Doing this limits interaction between students, keeps most interaction between a student and their roommates. Finally, classrooms look very different. Some classes are in person with social distancing procedures in place, while some classes have taken a staggering half in person, half online approach. Having the flexibility to do online classes allows for students and professors to adjust accordingly to any sickness that may come throughout the semester.
This semester, LaSalle has announced the launch of 3 new academic programs, including a 4+1 internship with the University of Pennsylvania. The programs are aimed at meeting students' needs and industry demands. They are set to officially begin in the fall of 2021, following approval from the university's Board of Trustees. The new additions include graduate degree programs in social work and business systems and analytics. The 4+1 partnership with the University of Pennsylvania maps undergraduate STEM students at LaSalle to a master's program in bioengineering. Students who go in this direction will get their master's from the University of Pennsylvania.
In regards to still living among the COVID-19 pandemic and having in-person classes this spring, President Colleen Hanich launched a contact tracing program at LaSalle. Contact tracing is one of the most important ways to limit the spread of COVID-19. LaSalle's new contact tracing team is staffed 7 days a week with 6 full-time employees, including Program Manager Elizabeth Allen and Dr. Scott Cook, the Director of Student Health. Students who have tested positive for COVID, been exposed to someone who has tested positive, or feel an onset of symptoms are asked to fill out the contact tracing team's disclosure form. The submission of this form alerts the contact tracing team to start a case investigation and notifying contacts of the student who submitted the form. To respect students' privacy, the team does not disclose names of the exposure and instructions for isolation. Student and faculty cooperation with the contact tracing team this semester will ensure a safe and successful in-person experience on campus this semester.
With LaSalle students being allowed to return to an in-person experience this semester, a lot of planning and new safety measures had to be put into place. Justin had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Scott Cook, the Director of Student Health at LaSalle, to learn more about this semester. Check it out.
Thanks, Erin. I'm joined now by Dr. Scott Cook, LaSalle's Director of Student Health, who was hired back in November to keep campus safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. He has also played a key role in preparing the university for this semester's return to an in-person experience. Dr. Cook, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So my first question is can you just tell me a little bit about your position that you're currently in?
Sure. So I came to LaSalle in November 2020, about a week before Thanksgiving, to take a position as the team physician and director of the Student Health Center.
Tell me about this return to campus plan that was developed. I know in the fall, students and staff unfortunately had to do a fully remote schedule. And I know the university really wanted everyone to come back and still have kind of an in-person, now that we're kind of still going through the pandemic, but I know administrators and all really wanted to have everyone back.
Sure. Yeah. Well, when I came to LaSalle in November, the footwork had already been started far prior to that point in terms of working towards a plan to be able to get back on campus and return our community to a bit of an in-person presence come January and the upcoming spring semester. So that was the foundation, and the bricks had already been laid in place to start to build that plan and how we were going to do that. I think my presence coming on board became one more of the bricks to go into place to help guide an approach that would not only give us the chance of being able to do this successfully, but also the chance to do this as safely for everybody as we possibly could, which is, it's a challenging time. So it's we all taken a great amount of pride in being able to tackle that challenge and being able to have the opportunity to try to walk everybody forward like this.
Yeah, I'm glad that everyone was, like, people who wanted to come back were able to come back. And there's a lot of safety measures, which we'll get to, that have been implemented. So I know that there's a group from LaSalle that meets with the city about what we're allowed to do and what's the best health practices for campus. What is discussed at these meetings and how are decisions made?
Yeah, so there are weekly meetings with the city Department of Public Health, the Philadelphia Department of Public Health, that are really built specifically for institutions of higher education, IHEs, which obviously LaSalle fits within. So when we're on these meetings, for the most part, it's the public health department from the city of Philadelphia and leadership from Thomas Jefferson, from Penn, from Temple, Drexel, LaSalle, so forth and so on. And the beauty of it is we get to compare with our peers, our peer institutions, contrasting and comparing different measures that have worked for one institution or maybe not worked for another, and trying to help us carve our way into the best way of approaching our population. But we are also getting the firm guidelines and the guidance from a regulatory perspective from the Department of Health of Philadelphia, in addition to then taking into account, obviously, state mandated guidelines and regulations as well.
So let's get to some of the safety measures that have been implemented on campus for this return to campus this semester. How were these measures established? And can you just talk about maybe some of the changes that have occurred on LaSalle's campus?
In terms of coming forward with guidelines, obviously things as simple as mask mandates. And using mask guidelines and, social distancing, which, we've all heard of at nauseum at this point, and for good reason, because there's obviously true valid importance behind those things. The other difficult things on a campus, on any university or college campus setting, becomes guidelines regarding restricted public areas, in addition to restricted guest policies. Being able to have visitors, which obviously becomes a huge restriction because it is a big, not only a liability for the campus at large and the safety and health of our community, has to be taken into account with all of that. In addition, it's using testing and regular testing, not only for an entrance perspective to try to get a baseline of where our community sits to start, but also surveillance testing to be able to try to identify pockets or concerns before they completely unspool into critical situations that maybe we could have tempered a bit if we were on top of to start with. And that's what I think a lot of individuals are seeing right from the start, coming back to campus, is using the testing and how that's being employed moving forward.
What's your final message to students, faculty, and staff regarding this semester and the current health emergency?
This is a tough time for all of us. It's challenging for all of us. And you know, if there's one thing I can ask anybody to take away from it is we're all in it together. We're none of us are enjoying this. This is something we're all in together. It affects us each somewhat in the same way, and each of us individually in different ways. But we're all going to get through this. It takes patience and pause and just take a breath to not react and get too upset too quickly. Time will pass and this is going to move in the right direction. But we're all here to help each other. And that's probably the big take home point, is that we're in it together. We need to all help each other.
Dr. Cook, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your insight into the LaSalle return to campus plan. I wish you continued success with this during the semester. For now, I'm going to send it back to the desk. It's time for our first break, but coming up, the City of Philadelphia is breaking ties with a nonprofit COVID group. Stay tuned.
You know you watch. You shouldn't be watching this. You should be watching LaSalle TV. Hey, watch LaSalle TV. You know you watch.
Man, Keegan is taking this You Know You Watch thing way too seriously.
You know you watch LaSalle TV.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. And we are there as you start your next chapter. We are with you through life's journey. We are Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
According to statistics, 40 million adults suffer from depression or anxiety. 1 in 4 college students are affected by this as well. You never know who is going through something, so you should always be kind to one another. A little kindness can go a long way. It might even save a life.
The Philadelphia Eagles have hired a new head coach and former Colts offensive coordinator, Nick Sirianni. The hire was announced a few weeks ago, but the team introduced the coach in a press conference officially last week. While the press conference was a letdown to some people, Sirianni has a future in the mind for his team and hopes to turn around the problems of last season. Many were disappointed with the hiring of Sirianni, saying there were more candidates that deserved it more, such as the Eagles' former running back coach, Drew Staley. It is hard to say what the future holds for this team, but there is hope under Sirianni for a more complete team.
On January 15th, Governor Tom Wolf allowed some businesses to reopen in Philadelphia as some COVID-19 restrictions were lifted. Philadelphia colleges were able to return to in-person learning as well. Some indoor entertainment facilities, Gyms, outdoor sports, and museums were reopened as long as they adhere to CDC guidelines of social distancing and wearing face masks. However, indoor capacity limits do still remain in effect, especially for restaurants. There is to be no more than 5 people per 1,000 square feet indoors. There is to be no more than 4 people that are not in the same family seated together when dining inside. Many bars in Philadelphia remain closed. Face coverings, social distancing, and routine temperature checks will remain in place regularly for employees and guests in indoor facilities in Pennsylvania.
During the week of January 25th, the city of Philadelphia announced that they were breaking ties with nonprofit Philly Fighting COVID after it was found out that the CEO was taking vaccines home and administering them to friends. 22-year-old Andrei Doroshin, who is a graduate student at Drexel University, and a group of his friends wanted to help people during the pandemic and eventually came up with the nonprofit idea. Doroshin had a deal with the Philadelphia Department of Public Health and Mayor Jim Kenney's administration. The city never signed a formal contract with Philly Fighting COVID or gave the organization any money, but it provided its unofficial sanction and publicity. The city turned over part of its vaccine allotment to this group and helped it find recipients by sharing lists of residents who were newly eligible to receive the vaccine. Everything went well until Philadelphia officials found out the organization abruptly shut down testing sites, updated its privacy policy to potentially allow personal data to be sold, and didn't reveal that they wanted to become a for-profit business. The district attorney has not said whether Doroshin is under investigation at this time.
Despite the negative effects on small businesses during the pandemic, 2 new local coffee shops in Philadelphia called Cake and Joe have recently opened their doors. Co-owners Sarah Key and Trista Tang are best friends and Philadelphia locals who attended college in the city. They each handle different parts of the businesses and they work together extremely well. Not only do their shops sell coffee, but they also sell Vietnamese-inspired desserts such as matcha tea cream cake and blood orange chocolate mousse. As for drinks, they also sell multiple fruit-based iced refreshers. Sarah and Trista were not nervous opening a small business during this pandemic because they opened right before the holiday season. They stated in an interview with 6ABC News, "Now especially, people need it, and people need to feel happy and relaxed. It was a risky time to open a business, but they got lucky with just the right timing. Check out Cake and Joe coffee shops to support your local Philadelphia businesses."
Coming up after this last break, we'll hear about a famous chocolate company closing its U.S. stores.
What's up, man? What's up, Greg?
Hello?
Don't be nervous.
Are you the one who's been watching me?
We've been watching you this entire time.
Who is this?
You should already know who's watching you.
What do you mean?
It's us, LaSalle.
LaSalle?
LaSalle TV.
Oh, we were watching LaSalle TV.
Exposure to blue light can mess with your sleep and memory cycle, so make sure you limit your screen time at least 2 hours before you go to bed.
On January 20th, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States. The inauguration looked very different this time, as the public was not allowed to attend due to COVID and security concerns. The ceremony focused on unity and healing. President Biden said to all Americans, "And I pledge this to you. I will be a president for the Americans. I will fight as hard for those who did not support me as for those who did." Right after the ceremony, President Biden got right to work signing 17 executive orders in the Oval Office. The orders signed aimed at rapidly addressing the coronavirus pandemic and dismantling many of President Trump's policies. Vice President Harris went right to work after the ceremony, going back to Capitol Hill after the parade to swear in the new Georgia Senators Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. The historic day ended with a live concert hosted at the Lincoln Memorial by Tom Hanks. President Biden and Vice President Harris addressed the nation again throughout the concert. At one point, former presidents Obama, Bush, and Clinton appeared in a pre-taped video conducted earlier in the day where they talked about what a peaceful transition of power is supposed to be like, and their congratulations to the new president. A fireworks show across the Washington, D.C. skyline ended the official ceremonies.
On January 13th, just 1 week before his term was set to expire, the House of Representatives adopted one article of impeachment against President Donald Trump. The charge is incitement of insurrection, which alleges Trump incited the storming of the Capitol on January 6th. The article was introduced with more than 200 co-sponsors, and during the same day, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi gave Vice President Pence an ultimatum to invoke Section 4 of the 25th Amendment to assume the role as acting president within 24 hours. The vice president refused to do so, and the impeachment proceeded. On January 25th, House impeachment managers formally started the impeachment trial by delivering the Senate the charge against former President Trump. Democrats and some Republicans hope to win this trial. However, there is still not enough people who would vote to convict, as many of the Republicans in the Senate still support the former president and claim his innocence. The trial is scheduled to begin on February 9th.
For the first time in its long history, the National Association of Music Merchants, or NAMM for short, has had its first ever virtual trade show. Usually, the event, which has been held at the Anaheim Convention Center since 1978, draws over 115,000 registrants from over 130 different countries each year. During this free virtual event, many manufacturers announced new products with videos of people playing musical instruments to showcase them, and many virtual celebrity performances. Usually, NAMM is home to big names performing and showing off their new gear, such as John Mayer. But it was strange watching him showcase a new guitar from his home this year.
The world-famous chocolate company Godiva announced that it will be shutting down every last one of its 128 stores in North America this March. Unfortunately, the reason for these closings is a lack of sales due to less in-person shopping during the pandemic. Godiva's CEO, Nurtrak Alfredi, made the executive decision about the store's closing. In a quote, she stated, "The decision to close North America was difficult because of the care we have for our dedicated and hardworking chocolatiers who will be impacted. While Godiva chocolate products will be unavailable to be purchased in stores starting in March 2021, these products can still be purchased online."
Well, that just about does it for this episode, but be sure to find us on the web as well as the rest of LaSalle TV on our Facebook page. We love to hear your thoughts, so tweet us using our Twitter handle and start the conversation.
That does it for this episode. If you missed the scoop and want to see it, you can find episodes on YouTube on our LaSalle TV Philly page.
Sam, and the entire crew, I'm Erin Holly. Thanks for watching LTV News, where the action never stops. And please, continue to wear a mask.